Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Vintage Roadshow here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my monthly show where, this just gives me an excuse to gush over all of my favorite movies. And we have an all time classic of old Hollywood here. And joining me is one of my oldest movie buddies, coming straight from Rider University's Alternative Film Club. It is Vinny. Thank you so much for coming on.
Good evening, Shane.
And yes, we have some classic Hollywood cinema to talk about tonight because we're talking about Sunset Boulevard. Now, I'll just read the general synopsis that they have on IMDb. This did come out in 1950. This is a screenwriter develops a dangerous relationship with a faded film star determined to make a triumphant return. And this is from director Billy Wilder, starring William Holden as Joe Gillis and Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond, and Eric von Stroheim as Max von Meyerling. So, getting an actual old time Hollywood director to play an old time Hollywood director. But before we dive in, Vinny, what's your history with Sunset Boulevard?
So I watched it for the first time the summer of 2016. What happened was that what would become one of my all-time favorite movies. um I was influenced to watch it after reading a book about the making of one of the worst movies of all time. It was through the book The Disaster Artist, which
Nice.
for those who don't know, is a book about the making of The Room, which is widely
Mhm.
considered to be one of the worst movies ever made. It's written by the actor who played the director slash producer slash writer slash lead character's friend in the movie.
Mhm.
And so the book, like, it follows two timelines. Of like, one timeline is about the author Greg Sestero and the friendship, and how his friendship blossoms with Tommy Wiseau. And the other timeline details the actual making of The Room. And the chapters that are in that timeline each starts with a quote from Sunset Boulevard. So that definitely got me interested in watching the movie. And especially given how, Sunset Boulevard is about a woman who's trying to get noticed, or re-noticed by Hollywood. And then Tommy Wiseau made The Room because he wanted to be noticed by Hollywood. So as shocking of a similarity it is, it's those two movies do have something in common. So that's what got me.
So what you're saying is, Vinny, you watch Sunset Boulevard because of the room.
What I'm saying. Yeah, yes, but what I'm also saying is Tommy Wiseau is a modern day Norma Desmond.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mark.
Which is so funny because honestly, The Disaster Artist is such a great time, the movie. I've read the book too, but it's just like, and like, yeah, and I'm 16. It's like, oh, happy birthday. But anyway, so my background, I forget exactly when I watched this for the first time, but I do have a special experience with this movie because it was Mother's Day, if I'm not mistaken. And I wanted to take my mom to the movies. And I saw it was, I think it was the 70th. Would it have been the might have been the 65th anniversary of this coming out or the 70th anniversary, depending on what that was. But I wanted to take my mom to go see this in a theater. And my mom had the moment of realization that, wait, this is the actual Sunset Boulevard. I'm like, yeah, what did you think I was taking you to? She thought that they remade it and I was taking her to a new movie.
Oh.
But no, it was a TCM classic showing of Sunset Boulevard, which I've taken my mom to see Sound of Music, which will definitely be on this at some point. But it was a really special experience. And this is just, if you love old Hollywood and movies about old Hollywood, like this is one of the go-to films for sure. And I do want to get started by talking about Billy Wilder, who made this film. But Vinny, what's your experience with Billy Wilder?
So with Billy Wilder, I'm ashamed to say I really haven't seen too many of his movies. Um, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna look up his filmography really quick. I'm sure
Yeah,
I've
I
seen.
have. So I know some of the, like, you start with The Bad Seed, The Major and the Minor, Five Graves to Cairo, but it was really Double Indemnity, The Lost Weekend, Foreign Affair, Sunset Boulevard, Ace in the Hole, Stalag 17, Sabrina, The 7 Year Itch, The Spirit of St. Louis, Witness for the Prosecution, Some Like It Hot, The
Oh,
Apartment. So like there's a
okay.
lot of iconic
Yeah,
movies that he directed.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm a total idiot. I have seen Some Like It Hot and the Apartment. So those two and Sunset Boulevard are my three Billy Wilder experiences.
Which also we covered The Apartment on the Movie Club over on the Development Hell podcast. Shameless plugs all around. Um, I've s- I've seen quite a few of his films, including I've seen The Front Page, his adaptation of like His Girl Friday, that he made in the 70s, which was one of his last films. It had Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau in it, which was a lot of fun. But he had a stretch here. I got to see Some Like It Hot in a theater at the Prince and Garden Theater too. That was a lot of fun. The Apartment's fantastic. I recently watched Stalag 17, which I'm a big William Holden fan too, so I was excited to check that out. But he has some great films. And he was, born in uh he was like worked for a Viennese newspaper. He escaped Europe before the rise of the Nazis and made it to America and became one of the biggest directors in Hollywood at the time. And man lived to 95 years old. In 2002, he passed away, which is wild. But I just love he could go through different genres. He was one of the pioneers of film noir with films like Double Indemnity. This has a lot of film noir elements to it too. And he also has some of the best comedies of all time. I know her buddy Joe, who will also get a shout out at the end of the show because he does the logo for the show. But he was perturbed by The Apartment being on like the greatest comedies of all time. He's just like, this isn't a comedy. And I'm like, it's funny though. It is
Wait,
dark,
wait,
but
which one?
The Apartment.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like it's funny, but yes, it goes to some dark places. Comedies can go to some dark places, just like like Some Like It Hot that starts with the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and you're just like, I had no idea this movie. I remember watching that first time and just being like, this movie starts with a mob hit. That's why they're on the run. It's like,
Where do we go from here?
so I Billy Wilder doesn't have like he has films like The Lost Weekend, which is a harrowing, intense film about alcoholism, and so he can go much darker and heavier dramatically, but also, find a lot of charm and humor in his films. I will say I think he's one of the greatest screenwriters of all time. So many of his films are just so sharp, they're just so impeccably written. And like this is incredible. We'll get to it, but this has some of the literally the most iconic lines in the history of film. Like to the point where it's like, I knew some of these lines because of Rugrats. Like
Yeah. Hmm.
that's how far this is permeated in pop culture. So like it's one of those types of things, but I would really recommend checking out more of his films, Vinny, because he has like a murderer's row of like 2 decades there where he was just making pure gold. The 40s and the 50s for sure into the very early 60s.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen as a movie fan, I've seen so many classic films, but but that
Mm.
you know, like every so often there'll be a director that'll come up like Billy Wilder in this case, where I've only seen three of his movies.
Well, and that's the thing too. I would always like to remind people here, PSA, the amount of movies there are is insane. No matter how much you love movies, and as somebody who tries to watch them all, it is a tall order to fill being able to really dive into everything. So I do think that Billy Wilder is a filmmaker that's really worth taking the time to explore for sure, though. Um, in terms of thinking about old Hollywood, so I always like thinking about some of those like classic old Hollywood films, films about Hollywood. Vinny, what are some of the ones that really stand out to you?
So trying to think of let me you know, obviously what we talked about before, the disaster artist, because
Mhm,
I mean, you know, a story about one of the worst movies of all time. Like who would have guessed
mhm.
that like Tommy Wiseau would find fame by getting a book written by him, and then a movie made about him.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of worst movies of all time, another great movie about old Hollywood is Ed Wood.
Yes, I love that. Honestly,
Like
that
it's
might
like
be my favorite Tim Burton movie.
well, you know what? It's when I watched it for the first time, I thought it was I thought it was so good, and like you, like it did become one of my top favorite Tim Burton movies, but it didn't do well at the box office, which was like really which was really surprising to me.
Well, and unfortunately, but fortunately, I think one of the main reasons it's even still in cultural zeitgeist is every so often Samuel L. Jackson gets pissed off that he didn't win an Oscar for Pulp Fiction. And because like Martin Landau won
Mhm.
Best Supporting Actor for playing Bela Lugosi, like, oh, that stings. And like it's a great performance from Martin Landau in that movie. Um, Samuel L. Jackson shouldn't have been Best Supporting Actor. Pulp Fiction's too weird of a structured movie to have like there's literally three leads in it. They each get their own section of the movie. But the Academy and Weinstein probably playing category fraud. Probably thought they had a shoe in for Samuel L. Jackson for Pulp Fiction, but nope, nope. Martin Landau had that legacy Oscar. I think he deserved. But no, Ed Wood's a great one too. I One that has really grown on me a lot, and it shouldn't have to grow on you. It's Singing in the Rain. It's just one that I didn't watch until much later, into like at this point into my adulthood. But like I watched that for the first time, like, what have I been missing? It's
Mhm.
one of those really classic, beautiful films about that transitional period between silent films and talkies and how that incorporates it. And it was endlessly charismatic. Gene Kelly, man, that man had some charisma and could dance for sure. Um, Another one that's related to that thematically and story wise is The Artist,
I was just thinking that.
which I I actually just wrote about this for my like micro article Substack series that I'm doing highlighting my movie collection, and I'm still in the A's, so I just did The Artist. The movie gets crapped on too much, and like I get it, like people don't think it deserved winning Best Picture and stuff like that, but like it's such a charming film, and Jean Dujardin and Berenice Bejo are incredible in that, and I love the story that they go through. And it's actually pretty creative. Like that dream sequence with sound in it is a lot of fun. I'm trying to think. Obviously, there's a lot of like I'll even throw out
Oh,
Babylon, which I feel like got way too much hate from
you
certain
know,
people.
well, you know, I haven't seen that, but you know, just like a month before that came out, The Fablemans.
Oh yes, Fableman's like jumped into my top 10 Spielberg movies. I love that movie. And I think there was something about it that really clicked with me. And it's not just because, that movie theater that they go to at the beginning of the movie is my hometown because he grew up in Han Township, for a bit in New Jersey. So, but like, there's something about the character of Sammy Fableman, and that has one of my favorite endings of a movie at this point.
Oh, it's so good with David
With
like
John Ford and
oh
the
my
whole
God.
like
Yep.
David Lynch. That was genius casting, having played John Ford. And then the whole like jerking of the camera to make sure that you move the horizon
And
was perfect.
another good movie about movie making example. If anyone is looking if anyone's looking for something that's not as heavy and more of a popcorn movie, there's J.J. Abrams's Super 8.
Yeah. Which it's obviously not about like the Hollywood system of
Right, but
filmmaking, but it's the
right, but
magic of wanting to make
yes.
movies and with aliens. Not aliens. But one other one, like I don't know why this one popped up out of all of them, but like even like something like Bowfinger with Steve Martin
I've
and
never
Eddie
seen that.
Murphy. It's a fun time. It's like getting the creative comedic juices of Steve Martin and Eddie in the same movie is such a
Oh,
fun thing.
not to, not to go like not to spend too much time on this point, but one that I really have to mention, that's also a comedy is For Your Consideration.
Yes. Anything Christopher Guest does, I am a fan of. So
That's actually the only Christopher Guest movie that I've seen, but I watched it and
interesting.
I laughed and laughed and like the whole cast is great, but Catherine O'Hara is just so funny, and that is especially the
He's so
very
funny
end.
in all of his films. Like she's one of the real MVPs of all of them. Fred Willard's always a big like Eugene Levy. I still need to watch Mascots, which is his last one that was like a straight to Netflix movie. But I'm a huge fan of Christopher Guest. But shifting gears
Mhm.
into our film here, let's set the scene. And William Holden's voice comes crawling in. It's like, you see me, see that body floating there in the pool? That's me. You want to know how we got here? So obviously one of the most obnoxious tropes I feel like in movies at this point, 75 years later, is the you want to know how I got here opening to a movie. But this one is so iconic. It's so good. Like the intrigue of opening up a movie and just having William Holden, who has a voice, like his voice is so perfect for movies, and he's just like setting this stage. You see this big mansion, you see this swimming pool, and just a corpse floating in it, and you get that like shot from underneath of just body him, William Holden, just floating there in the pool. Which this is such a great scene that they spoofed it in Archer when they did a season where he gets shot and then winds up in a coma for 3 seasons. But like it's just such a great way to start a movie. It sets intrigue, it sets the tone, and William Holden just like pulls us right in there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, like what one of the talking points you sent me were film noir characteristics of this movie,
Mm.
and like with this movie, actually, I mean, like I haven't seen a lot of film noirs, but like I've seen enough to know that like you're not it's very unlikely you're gonna get a happy ending, and this movie right out of the gate tells you that you're not like
Oh,
this isn't
nope,
gonna
you're not getting a happy ending.
no.
Which this is so great because I would love to see William Holden be in more like noir films where he's like the hard-boiled private detective because I feel like he would get that vibe so perfectly. And it's why his narration throughout this film, which is very noirish, is so perfect. He just has the timbre in his voice, the tempo. He has the attitude. Like the way that he plays is, and because usually it's like a hard-boiled kind of detective, and he's just like, yeah, I'm jaded by the system. Why am I even doing this? And like he just has this vibe that he's so worry worn and world worn, and he's just at this point where it's just like, yeah, maybe I will shack up with this woman who has all this money and I need to hide from people. Um, and he has that like moral gray area like a great noir protagonist does for sure.
Yeah, and I'm just I don't know, like I'm just like I'm just thinking about how like how you mentioned you mentioned him being jaded by the system, and like like in this in this case you could say he's jaded against the Hollywood system because
Yeah.
I mean like he's at the start of the movie he obviously needs money. He's in the middle of typing he's in the middle of typing a screenplay, but you don't know if it's you don't know if it's gonna you don't know if it's gonna be a success or what. But and then once he meets Norma, like uh, like like pretty much with the movie, like it is, yes it is more about her using him to like get back on top. But I don't know, like one thing I was thinking about when watching this movie, like who's to say he's not hoping to what who's to say that he's not hoping that she eventually makes a comeback, and he maybe hitches his wagon to her star, and hopefully maybe get a leg up in Hollywood along with her.
Oh yeah, Joe's definitely um reading a bit into that too because like it's one of those things. And what's so interesting about Joe is when he's confronted with things he is very blunt about things. And you know it's interesting his dynamic because from the very beginning when we first meet Betty, played by Nancy Olson, she's like tearing in to one of his scripts and he's just like, yeah, it was crap. Because like he's beyond like writing artistic things that he thinks will make a difference. It's just like I need to make this schlock so I can make a paycheck. And she calls him out on it. But also she's younger than him. She has this wide-eyed, like I was that lovely sequence with them walking through the lot and
Mhm.
her being like, I was born into this. And she has this like shining glow of like movie making and stuff like that, and Joe being sourpuss over here, like being like, "Oh yeah, you you were born into this," and he inspires him to be better. And then you have Norma, who he like when he confronts Betty when she comes over, and he's like, "Me leave with this closet full of suits and all of these things," and like obviously he's putting on a front because he doesn't want to hurt Betty. He thinks that she's better off without him in her life. But like there's a truth to like, yeah, he's been milking this a bit. He's been enjoying it too. This isn't a one-way street with Norma getting something out of him. He gets a lot out of that with her. One, protection, because the whole entire point of him showing up at this house in the first place is because people were coming for him. He's in some trouble. And you know, that's also the noirish element of like you have the hard-boiled character and the femme fatale. And if there's a femme fatale out there, it's Norma Desmond, because he shoots him. So obviously dangerous woman in the end. But I think there's a lot there in terms of that dynamic where Joe is stuck in between this decrepit mansion with this old aged out Hollywood starlet. And then there's this young woman who wants to breathe life into his life and his creativity. And who's he going to choose? And him being jaded, he's afraid that he's going to destroy this young woman and everything, and pushes her away.
Well, one thing that I noticed this time around was, um, what you were saying about the whole dynamic with with Joe being stuck between Norma and who's Nancy Olsen's character? What's her character's name?
It's Betty.
Betty. So like, you have Norma and Betty. So like, with with going back to the scene when Betty and Joe are walking along the Hollywood lot, he asks her, did you ever want to be in movies?" And she told him that I guess she did like a few screen tests,
Mhm.
but but pretty much the whole time she was always interested in being behind the scenes and writing for the movies. Whereas with Norma, like, she'll stop at nothing to be in front of the camera. And I just thought it was interesting that, like, you have these two women, he has these two women that are having an impact on his life. And like they're in the same, the two of them are in the two women are in the same industry, but they want very, very different things with their careers.
They do have a very interesting, they're very interesting foils to each other in terms of where they're at, where they want to be, what they want to be a part of. Because, like, do you really have control in front of the camera? Like, I know there's some actor, like, if you're Tom Cruise, you have control, um, being a star. But like most of the time, the people, like the writers, are crafting the stories. The directors are the ones bringing it to life. There's something different about that. But what you get in front of the camera is the vanity, the you're in front of there, you're out in front, and people are watching you and stuff like that. And that's Norma feeds off of that. Like that scene with the spotlight coming down on her when they're at the lot and she's just soaking it in. But
One little detail I always liked about that scene
mhm,
was when she's sitting in Cecil B. DeMille's chair, just watching everything happen on the movie set. And she, like, because earlier in the movie before that, she bemoans the state of Hollywood and how, like, oh, we when I was working, we didn't need movies didn't need words. I'm sorry, movies didn't need words. They had faces. And then in that scene when she's on the movie set sitting in Cecil B. DeMille's chair, you have the microphone kind of like crossing her vision, and like she kind of like she kind of swats it away. And like, I just thought that was like a nice little joke that went back to the scene where she complains about how talkies are ruining Hollywood.
yeah, which is interesting because this is like this is at a point where this is 19, like this is
50.
take place in 1950.
Uh, I assumed it. They don't say one way or the other. So I assumed it took place in the year it was made.
Yeah, because like this is they're 20 plus years deep into making talkies. So like this is where like you know like sound started coming in like 28 around there. So like this is a point where this isn't like early on in talkies where it's just like, oh, this is a fad, this is disgusting. No, it's like Hollywood had moved on. And that's so important with Norma's character is that Hollywood did move on. But thinking about directing wise, Billy Wilder directs the hell out of this movie. Like even from like the opening, like on Sunset Boulevard, like going along the street and everything with the camera. I love these big panning shots across this like the scale that it captures of this mansion from the opening scene.
Did you get because just the way the camera move, like, just the way the camera, like, focus, like shows the mansion. And like, Norma is, I mean, she's not living a well, she's living. It's just her and her butler, and like that really gave me Citizen Kane vibes. Like in the beginning of that movie, when the camera focuses on when the camera focuses on what's it called, Xanadu, his
Xanadu.
mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you know like in the you know in there it's Charles Foster Kane and like his maid or his butler or whoever. So I just got like this time watching the opening scene of Sunset Boulevard, like it really, like it made for the first time it made me think about the opening shot of Citizen Kane.
I could 100% see that influence for sure, especially because what's this, like, I don't know, 12 years
Citizen
or
Kane,
so?
I think, was
What was
19
that, early 40s?
yeah, it was like 1940 or 1941, I think.
Okay, so like only less than 10 years where that I feel like at least had made some kind of impact and influence. Like, I know it wasn't as appreciated upon its release as it could have been because, William Randolph Hearst probably didn't want it to be. But, controlling the media. But it's one of those types of things where, like, I could definitely see that because it's in the it's in that filmic language of like Citizen Kane setting up Xanadu is like the way to set up like sprawling like castle type experience. And this has a lot of that vibe to it. And there's just so many great shots. Like I'm just looking at some of the stills here. There's a lot of dynamic camera angles that give a lot of depth in some of these shots in this mansion. There's these overhead shots where you just see the expanse of like her ballroom and these types of things. I love a few shots like when she's showing a picture and like obviously this is an audio podcast so you can't only Vinny can see this, me posing, but like she's standing there with her hand up and just the light of the projector on
Hmm.
her. It's just such an iconic shot. The obviously the shot at the very beginning of the film where Joe's just floating in the water and you have that shot from underneath. There's just so many inspired shots all the way up to the iconic shot of her like coming barrel down the middle right at the camera with that I'm gonna kill somebody look at her eye where she is transfixed by the camera. That obsession is so powerful. And like Laura Swanson like absolutely kills that scene for sure. And it's so iconic and just Billy Wilder, the pacing is great. This is a legitimate like 2 hour movie and doesn't feel it. It's
If
sharp, it's
it
quick,
flies by, it flies by.
it's so engaging. Like Billy Wilder films in general have great pacing. He just really understands how to keep an energy about his films and pull his audience in. This film is so spry in terms of how it goes through its storytelling. And it just, if I wanted to show somebody, it's like, this is how you really engage an audience with the direction. It's like Sunset Boulevard or most of Billy Wilder's big films are great examples of that.
And like talking about Gloria Swanson's, iconic shot like at the end of the movie, like this movie, it really does have like a nice like little meta angle in its casting of Gloria Swanson, because Gloria Swanson was a silent movie actress before
Yes.
before this movie. And what I what the genius of that casting is that like her like her face her face is like she says so like she says so much with like just her facial expressions. So like like not only do you see like how Norma Desmond used to be a silent movie actress, but you see you really see how Gloria Swanson used to be a silent movie actress, of just because of like how expressive she can make her face, how big she can make her eyes, and just it's just such it's such an amazing performance. It's so well rounded in terms of both her character's dialogue and her character's expressions, and I don't know, it's just like it's probably one of my all-time favorite movie performances.
It's incredible. Like, someone's like, wait a minute, you're Norma Desmond. You used to be a big star. I am big. It's the pictures that got small. It's just like, damn. Like she just grabs you with some of those line deliveries. And of course, it's like, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close up. And just that experience and just the power that she has. And like this is a big performance. But the thing is, it's big because she is a silent movie star. Performances needed to be big because you couldn't say anything. You needed to express and be able to show everything. Her facial expressions are so strong and powerful and defined that they just pop. Like that face that she has at the end of the movie, it's kind of scary.
Mhm.
But like it's that powerful. And she has this power, but then there's this vulnerability when she like to use the some terms of today, she crashes out a couple of times. There's moments where she's just like that moment after she like slit her wrists,
Mhm.
and there's just something so vulnerable about her. And what's so interesting about William Holden's performance in this is he very rarely lets us in or anybody else in, despite the fact that he's telling this whole story. Like, he is so down on the world, there's a lack of feeling there. There's a distance and a disconnect from the world around him. And William Holden just has that kind of presence and that sarcasm that he just sells this character so perfectly. And they have a toxic dynamic with each other because she would be like I would describe as an open nerve where it's just all energy and emotion. And he's just so cold and distant. Like when he's with Betty, he gets playful. And I think that's where he never gets like, you don't see him like super happy and smiling, but like he's playful. He's having fun in his engagement with her. And that's where we see those moments. And I just think William Holden's fantastic in this. And I know a lot of people thought he should have won his Oscar for this instead of Stalag 17 that he wound up winning it for. Even William Holden thinks so. Thought so, I guess. And I was a big William Holden fan. Like I really enjoyed him all the way up through Wild Bunch and especially Network. I think he's fantastic in that movie, which that movie's full of fantastic
Oh
performances.
yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever seen any Gloria Swanson films
This is the only one.
outs, outside of this.
This is the only one that I've seen with her in it.
So like I would be interested to see her as like a young starlet in these silent films. And Eric von Stroheim is an interesting presence too, because he directed 10 films in the late 20s into the early 30s. Uh, and he was an actor as well. But you know, Gloria Swanson's performance in this is just iconic and absolutely towering for sure. One element of this film, speaking of iconic, I don't know about you, but Franz Waxman's score for this, I listen to a lot because it is powerful. It just has, it's one of those, at least for me, the second I hear it, I'm like, Sunset Boulevard.
Hmm.
And it really sets a tone. Like there's something bit haunting about it, and I think that captures like the noirish feel, but it also feels very big old Hollywood kind of film score that really works for because like this film has scale because of the setting in this mansion and because how big Norma Desmond is as a character. You needed a score that captures that kind of energy with it.
Was he a frequent collaborator of Wilder's?
It's a good question, honestly. Let me I see it looks like he might have done some Hitchcock, at least being a part because he composed he has 178 composing credits. So he worked. He worked a lot. But like I'm like he did Peyton Place, The Spirit of St. Louis, so he did at least some other Mr. Roberts, so he did some John Ford, he did Hitchcock, he did Rear Window.
Oh, okay.
So he did uncredited work on Stalag 17. So the original My Cousin Rachel. So he did a lot of films from this era, and it looks like he had an interesting mix of filmmakers that he worked with. So he definitely wasn't like, I'm just working with this person. He worked a lot. There's a lot of credits here. So, but I don't know if any of his scores are as iconic as this. And it is a powerful score that really, you need a score that's going to capture the spirit of a film. And this captures the spirit of what Sunset Boulevard's going for sure. Trying to think. The only other real big thing that I don't feel like we touched on that much is, well, we've brought some of these elements up. I just think it's very interesting, like the connections this has to old Hollywood. Like they literally had Cecil B. DeMille in the movie playing himself.
Mhm.
So like I thought that was a really interesting choice. Her like night with some of her friends, like it's Buster Keaton
And
playing himself
and
sitting there.
and Hedda Hopper.
Yeah, had a Hopper pops up at the end where she's like, "Hey, this is Hopper on the phone." I'm like, "Wait a minute, probably is actually Hedda Harper," and it is. So I love those elements because it helps blur the line. Because Florida Swanson's more or less like obviously I don't know what she was like in real life, but from like the outside looking in, she could be playing a version of herself
Mhm.
where like she had been through all of this and wasn't a big star anymore, but got this opportunity. Like it's an amazing thing that she got this lifeline because back then I don't think there was a whole lot of Helen Mirrens, Judy Dench's, who've been acting for decades and decades and decades and still get to have like meaty roles later in their life. Like Helen Mirren's still in a ton of stuff at this point, and I'm assuming she's pushing close to 80. I would assume so at this point, if not, because like she's still killing it on big time premiere television and in movies. But like back then, like you probably hit 35 and you're like, oh, what an old hag. And then it's just like replaced by younger
Well,
actresses.
yeah, yeah. Well, that reminds me of that miniseries from like 8 or 9 years ago about the making of of whatever happened to Baby Jane. You have Joan Crawford and Betty Davis who used to be huge movie stars, but then once they had hit a certain age, no one no one really wanted anything to do with them. So they had to they had to team up and make that movie happen.
Well, and Vinny, that hurt me that you said this miniseries from 9 years ago and started describing like, oh my God, that came from 9 years ago. But like that had Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange in it,
Hmm.
right? They were
Yes.
the two of them.
Yep.
And like if this was then, they would be in the same spot. They would like not that Jessica Lange and Susan Sarandon are like still like in like premiere roles in a lot of movies, but they still work. And like, you know, well, what the hell was that? Vince Vaughn, what Nona's that came out on
Yes.
Netflix.
Yes.
And like Susan Sarandon got to be sexy grandma. Where everybody else looked like a bunch of old Nonas, she got to be like the sexy looking Nona. And I'm just like, and then what's the last thing I saw Jessica Lange in? I
The,
feel like
the
it was some,
the last thing the last thing I saw her in was like maybe one of the earlier seasons of American Horror Story. Oh no
Okay.
no no oh no I mean the last thing I saw Jessica Lange in was was the making of Baby Jane series. I'm sorry.
Mhm. And then like even like Sissy Spacek, who's in that new movie film that Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson's in. Like women have, and like Streep has another Devil Wears Prada coming out. So like I feel like Meryl Streep kind of defies any kind of laws of the
Yeah,
Hollywood jungle. She's
yeah
just
she does.
she's the street monster, and she's just gonna be picking up nominations every time she's in something. Um, I am looking forward to that follow up though, because I love her and Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt. But like, it's one of those types of things where this is such an impactful story to look at because like it's not aging is very different now because it boggles my mind like Scarlett Johansson's like in her early 40s. And what's even wilder is like she's been acting since she was like 18.
Mhm.
Because I remember her popping up in Home Alone 3 as like the older sister in
Oh
that.
yeah, I
It,
remember that.
and like to be frank, she was like what 23 in Lost in Translation. Something like that.
Probably.
Like, yeah, because like she's early 40s now. And it's so wild to think that like Chris Evans, 40, Glenn Powell pushing 40. And like all these people that look like they don't age, Paul Rudd having a lot of money, gave you a lot of aging in 2025. Like women's careers have been prolonged at this point. Like what was 35 is probably 50 something now, pushing 60. And you can still pop up in things. And like there's actors like I love Carrie Condon and
Hmm.
Rebecca Ferguson, and I feel like their careers didn't even launch until they were in their 30s, go
Yeah.
pushing 40. So it's this is such an interesting film from that perspective, and it's a time capsule of like this is how cutthroat Hollywood was. And it's such a fascinating story. And I just love all those little elements that they pop in there of like this feels real and very authentic when you see like also I'm pretty sure this is the only time I've ever heard Buster Keaton say anything. So that was a very interesting little like I did not expect that type of voice to come out of you. It's a lot deeper than I thought it would be. Um but I guess Vinny, are there any other things that you wanted to throw out there about Sunset Boulevard that we didn't really hit on?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think I went through all the I think I went through everything I wanted to say about it.
Well, there you go. Well, the gushing has ended. But we have one little fun thing that I proposed to Vinny. I'm trying to add more of these fun little things at the end to, because this podcast isn't about like film critiquing. This is about we love this movie and we're going to talk about why we love it. So we're keeping it fun. Obviously they made a Broadway musical out of this, which they make Broadway musicals about anything and everything at this point. But I do feel like this is something that did make sense that you can make a musical out of. And Glenn Close was the big star on Broadway when this show popped up. Inevitably, Hollywood will circle back around and pull a producers where there was an original version that got turned into a Broadway musical and then got turned into a film. I guess also Mean Girls counts as that too. But
I
if
will.
they did make a film version of this, Vinny, who would you cast? I specifically as Norma, Desmond, and Joe Gillis.
Hmm. Oh gosh.
So while you're thinking, I had this realization about who I'd cast as Norma Desmond, and it's Catherine Hahn. And
Catherine.
so it's funny because probably the first thing most people know her from was like Step Brothers and Anchorman and stuff like that. But
Catherine. Okay, okay, yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I couldn't think of the face for a second, but okay, yeah.
so ever since Agatha All Along came out, the for some reason Marvel made a spin-off of that character from WandaVision. And Catherine Hahn got to do like singing performances in that. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think she would have she's big, she's sarcastic, she has that kind of energy. And I think that would be a really interesting thing for her to have this type of role to like sink her teeth into. And it would probably be one of the first big dramatic film roles that she got to really shine in.
I'm think you know it's funny the person I was kind of thinking of when you first said Catherine Hahn, like as soon when you said Catherine, I was like, oh, is he gonna say the person who I'm thinking of? But
Mm.
I'm actually thinking I think Catherine Zeta-Jones.
My God, I would eat if well, and I think it would be very interesting because she's not really working like consistently. And she's been in a musical
Right.
multiple times. Like she won an Oscar for Chicago, which honestly still also is one of my favorite performances of an actress because she absolutely like tears the house down in that.
Hmm.
But also, fun fact, she was also in Rock of Ages because she was the leader of like the Christian mothers group that wanted to outlaw the um hair metal music in it. But no, Catherine Zeta-Jones would be great. And I think it would be really interesting at her place in her career where she's not really working that much anymore, which is a shame because she's great. I can watch The Mask of Zorro and Chicago again and again and again and again and again. So I really love that choice. I think like oddly enough, the first I don't know why this was the first name that popped up. I thought a Zac Efron would be an interesting choice.
Well, you know what? Well, you know what? That could work because William Holden was only like 32 or 33 when he made this.
Mm,
So you know like an actor as young as Zac Efron could work.
Vinny, I'm gonna pull up something, and I'm really wondering. Zac Efron was born in 1987,
So
so he's
he's
38 years old.
puts things into perspective.
It puts things in perspective, but it's 2025, so he could pull up being a 32-year old. Though I thought that was an interesting choice. I'm trying to think like early 30s folks. And this is the challenging thing because William Holden never gives off I'm a young guy kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised when I looked him up and saw that he was only like in his early 30s when he made Sunset.
Because like I feel like he automatically went to 40, did not pass go, not collect $200, and then stay well, and even by like the Wild Bunch, he didn't age well. And also he didn't unfortunately didn't live that late into life either. He was only 63 years old when he died
Oh
in
wow.
1981. Um, but like always had an older vibe to him. Like I could even see them pulling off like I think this has been an interesting role for Chris Evans to like try to capture a little bit of something like that. Or I'm trying to think this is an interesting role for somebody to tackle because I feel like they have to be like sarcastic and biting and a little bit intense. And I'm trying to think exactly who that would be.
Yeah, it's oof. That is
And it's no. There will be no Timothy Chalamet and there will be no Tom Holland in this movie.
no. Um, well, you know what? No, not them, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking because even though he isn't as old as William Holden was when he made this, they still look about this like the same age when you compare them. I think Glenn Powell could pull this off
I think Glenn Powell could
because
pull this off
because
too.
you said he's what, close to 40?
I
Okay,
I
yeah, and
think
William Holden does look older than he
looked
does
like
than
40.
yeah.
So yeah, Glenn Powell was born in 88, so he's
No,
37 years
yeah,
old.
and like he definitely has what he definitely has that screen charisma
Mhm.
to maybe pull off that character.
I think that would be interesting. Um
But the only thing is, can he sing?
that I don't know. See, I
Oh,
don't know. Well, I know
how
Zac Efron
what,
definitely
what
sings,
about
so
actually Ryan Gosling?
oh my God. Oh my God.
Okay, so yes, scrap Glenn Powell, go
Forget
with
everything we've said up to this
yeah,
point. I
Ryan
want
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling in this movie. Because like I know he is actually 40. Like he yes. I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. That is the Joe Gillis I want in this movie. So I think that would be really interesting. And there's a variety of like younger actresses that you could throw in there to be Betty. Because like I don't think she's like I don't think it there's not a whole lot of specific standards you need for that character. I guess at this point she just needs to be able to sing because if this is going to be a musical, and I'm assuming Betty has a musical number. I don't know. I haven't seen the stage play on the stage musical, but I don't know. I'm trying to think who would throw in there. God, you know what? If we're gonna go full blown Ryan Gosling, just throw Emma Stone in it too. But she's supposed to be younger. How old is Emma Stone actually? That's a good
I
question.
think I think she might be around our age, like maybe a couple years older, if that.
God, she was born in 88, so she would be this about the same age as like a Glenn Powell or a Zac Efron, which I guess then
I'm
she's a
trying.
little bit younger than Ryan Gosling.
I'm trying to think of like I'm trying to think of like some recent like movie musicals that I've seen that we can like
Draw from
yeah. Oh God. Hmm.
Anna Kendrick. It
You know what?
work, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, because even though she's like
She might be 40, but she doesn't look like she's 40.
that is true, and because she looks younger than she is, like I think she could still pull off like what Nancy Olsen does in terms of like a character who's like not necessarily new to the industry, but is still trying to like find her footing and her place and like where she wants her career to be. So yeah, I mean that
I
I think.
submit Haley Steinfeld. I think would be
Oh
perfect.
yes,
Yes.
yeah.
We just cast a good movie. Somebody out there has to be listening to
but
this.
now what about Max?
You know who I think would be an interesting choice? If you weren't going to go for like an actual director, Jack Black, I think could be an interesting choice to throw in there just from like a stature standpoint and stuff like that.
Jack Black,
Or when
but like Max is a very restrained personality, and
I think it would
with
be an interesting choice. Um, Here's the tricky thing. If he has to sing, I have no idea if any of these directors I'm about to throw out there can sing. Like I was thinking like a John Favreau would be an interesting choice. Like
Or
I don't know if he could sing, but
this guy, although this guy not a director, and as far as I know, he hasn't done really any singing, but he definitely has the stature, especially the bald head, Vincent D'Onofrio.
I would love it. I would love him to be in more anything. So I'll take it. That would be an interesting choice. Because that kind of stature is interesting because it's a different type of stature. Because like Max is a little, I mean, Max von Meyerling's like not quite tall, but like he's big and
Yeah,
has that kind of presence.
he's stocky.
Vincent D'Onofrio would be very intimidating, which would be interesting to throw in there. But no, that would be an interesting choice for sure. And he's definitely intense. Like, ever since he played the Kingpin, like, I'd be terrified of that man. Trying to act against him in something like that. Um, that's a very interesting choice. I like that. We have an interesting movie here. I think whether you pick Catherine Zeta-Jones or Catherine Hahn, I think the Ryan Gosling, Haley Steinfeld of it all. These are some interesting choices. Somebody out there listening, we want some credit. If this was happening. But Vinny, thank you so much for coming on, humoring me, and coming on and talking about Sunset Boulevard.
Well, as always, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your favorite Billy Wilder film or old school about Hollywood type film? Make sure to follow, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPDM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. We have so many great shows, a lot about movies, and other interests as well. So there's a little bit of something for everybody out there. And if you're interested in becoming a guest on one of these shows, like obviously this show always has guests on it, and you want to gush about a movie that you love, or any of our other shows, or if you have an idea for a podcast and want a place to start, reach out to us on our website. And if you like our logo, going back to what I said before, our buddy Joe made a great logo. This is my favorite logo that I have for any of my shows. Absolutely love the work that he did. You should go check out Joe's Etsy store. He's a very creative guy. And most importantly, thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Vintage Roadshow here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.